Hi, my friends. It's Ashley at the Iron Underneath. How you doing? I thought I'd make a video about Oathbreaker. I wasn't gonna make a video about Oathbreaker. I wasn't gonna make any videos about the show anymore ever again. I hated it so much that I couldn't even believe it. I was running, I was yelling at my husband during the episode, so I had to stop and just like I couldn't understand what was going on. And then I was texting with Mythos of Ice and Fire, and we're going, "What's happening here?" And I'm telling Claire Gray and Maester Payne, "What's happened? Are they telling us that they're breaking their oath that they were going to make this great, beautiful book series into a show, and now they're not going to do it?" I was so furious. And then I watched this thing 3 more times. And, the reason I did watch it the fourth time is because I couldn't get Arthur Dane out of my head. And I mean, we all know when you're left with a feeling of you can't forget a movie, it's because it was great. So I went back and I watched it again. And this time I decided to just have a really open mind because I realized that what I'd done is I'd gone in with huge expectations about the Tower of Joy, about John, about lots of things. And that I had I need to go back and read the Four Agreements again or something. Don't assume, don't make assumptions, don't all of it. So I just really need to say this was probably one of the most beautiful ones, one of the most beautiful episodes. Last week's was quite gorgeous too. I mean, I think they all are going to be. Um, but I'm just so amazed that I reacted that way and that I didn't see it. I mean, it's just like the books. You have to look deeper. So I'll just start this review. I'll just start at the wall. This was kind of great. John just wakes up, and the first time around, all I could think of, and I'm sure a lot of people were thinking, where'd the loincloth go? Must we do this? But really, once the episode went on, I realized that there was a lot of religious idolatry going on in here. Yeah, first you've got John sitting up, and Mel comes running in right after Davos, and luckily Davos came in first, or it might have been more of a shock for John, but um, it seemed like, Davos was just like a little protector, and then Melisandre comes rushing in and starts asking him, "Did you see something? Did you see anything?" And I thought it was too great that he said, "I saw nothing," Took me that many times to catch. I saw nothing. And then I realized that Davos had a really annoyed look on his face. No, no, no. This isn't going to happen again. This Red God stuff and with John happened with Stannis. I watched it and it was a disaster. So let's just get out of here and stop talking about what you saw. But the other part that I thought was really interesting was before anyone came into the room, when John first sat up, he looked over at Ghost, and they locked eyes for a lingering moment. And it made me think that was the little nod to, I was inside of your mind. I was warped into you. You are me. I am you. And only we get it. I'm not going to try to explain it to Davos, and I'm certainly not going to explain it to Mel. So then Mel says Stannis wasn't the prince that was promised, and I'm glad we got a reference to the prince that was promised. But she said, it was interesting how she said it. She said, Stannis was not the prince that was promised, but someone has to be. So she didn't necessarily say Jon is the prince that was promised. She just said, you know, well, thank God someone came back to life. Someone has to be. I guess it's you. I don't know. It was sort of a weird. Um, I think she was just so shocked that it actually worked. That she couldn't. You must be the prince that was promised. But it did leave it open. The way she said it. So, Davos just looked like he really had a reason to be there, and I think this is the reason. And it's said later on by the High Sparrow that we are all given life or keep our lives by the Mother's mercy, and that refers back to Davos. When he drowned, he ended up on that rock, and he was almost between whether he should kill himself or whether he go into the cave and die, or whether he should flag down the ship that finally showed up after he was stranded there for days, and he was dying. So he almost went into the cave, and then the mother's voice started to talk to him in the books, and she said, "You have a bigger purpose. You have to flag down that ship. You have to go back. You have to live." And that purpose was Jon. I really do think that's why Davos is so invested in Jon, that he really does want to see the realm in a good place. He's given most of his life, most of his family, for this to all happen. So it would be terrible for Davos to see it all go down in flames. And that's another thing that all this is about. And not seeing the mistakes that have been made, and not acknowledging the lessons, acknowledging the histories, the real story, not knowing the real story most of the time, because it's always written, history is always written by the winners, so we never know the side of what really happened. There's always two sides, two sides, and then what really happened, so that's really what we're dealing with, and that's cool because that's what the World of Ice and Fire all was. So, then Jon gets up and goes out and talks, gives Tormund a hug, and we get a little great book reference to the size of Tormund's member, and because it's a joke that just goes through and through and through, and he said, a god would never have a pecker that size. I love that. It's so Tormund. And then we go to Ed, and he's like, it was really great, because Ed's always the one making the jokes, and so he was kind of like, is it really you? But what this could be way reaching, but when I thought back to home, and I went back and watched this scene again, and Tormund and Ed are standing. I thought, were they saying that over Jon's body, that they were going to burn him? And, it could just be that Jon was like, everybody gets burned at the wall. We know better. But it also could have been that he was in Ghost. Ghost was in the room. He heard them say, Tormund did say, I'm going to go get my men to get a funeral pyre ready. You get your men ready, and we have a body to burn. And so Jon said, you don't have to burn my body. So I thought that was a little bit interesting. I wonder if they're implying that he heard it. So then we go to, sorry, I've got so many notes, it's insane. So then we go to Sam and Gilly. And I just wanted to say this, is that, through all of these stories, I think it's all about remembering what came before, learning from what came before. And I think that Jon is one of the few who remembers what came before. And you see it later at the end. when, I'll just do the end with this, because it's on the wall. When you see him execute the traitors, Ollie and Alistair Thorne, and he walks by each one of them, he looks each one of them in the eye, and he swings the sword. And that was exactly what Ned taught him to do. And I thought that was just perfect. It was. And then we go to Sam and Gilly. I mean, I just love them. I think they're always great. I think Gilly's little plays on words are so cute. And I love the fact that they mentioned Horn Hill, because that means that Sam, it did sort of mean that Sam hadn't told Gilly the whole truth, and that he was breaking an oath also. I mean, John walking away and saying, "My watch is over," was fucking fabulous. I love that. And you know what? Giving the cloak over to Ed, and it not being by vote, that didn't bother me one bit. It should be Ed, and it should be somebody that John trusts to know that the wall is going to be taken care of, and Ed will. So I thought that was just poetic. I like that John's changing things, because that's what I want him to do. So Sam and Gilly, Sam mentions Horn Hill, and he's got the horn that came from the fist of the first men that John found, and he hopefully is going to blow it, or someone's going to get it from him and blow it. So hopefully, so that means kind of that the horns will be in, and we've already seen them, so there should be. And I was kind of losing faith, like I said, and this episode renewed all of my faith. I saw it. I finally saw what they're doing, and they're trying to give us as much as they possibly can, and they're giving it to us in really cool ways, really, really cool ways that I really appreciate, because, like I said, you have to dig, you have to watch closely. Again, that's what we're used to doing, and that's what they're used to doing, so it's pretty apropos. And then the Tower of Joy. Oh my God, they got the most amazing. I mean, they did ask for in the casting call the best swordsman in all of Europe, or something like that. And he was, gorgeous. He looked like a young Richard Gere, and he was the most beautiful fighter I've ever seen. It was the most beautifully choreographed fight, and I could watch it over and I will watch it over and over and over. His upper body didn't move. It was just gorgeous. I mean, really. It didn't bother me that he had double swords. It didn't bother me at all. And maybe the fact that he had double swords happened, It got into the theme of, did it really happen that way? History is recorded differently. It's recorded by people who have biases. So this honor that we've seen from Ned, we've also seen Ned feeling really, really, really guilty about things and not caring about his life when he was in the Black Cells and things like that, and wondering why is he feeling like this? He's such a good man, and he was. But the thing about Ned Stark is that I think he was on the wrong side. I really think that's what was going on here. The questions I always had about the Tower of Joy are many. But the main questions of, especially what we just saw, are from when Arthur Dayne says, and now it begins, and Ned says, and now it ends. Also, the other question I had was, why are they there? Were they there for Ares? Were they there for Rhaegar? Why would the Kingsguard be there for the prince? Why would they not be there for the king? There's something that goes down at the tourney of Harrenhal that Oswell went, the guy that was sharpening his sword. His family had a tourney, and it was to celebrate, I think, a wedding. And they sort of implied that the nobles were planning a coup, even just to get Ares off the throne completely and get Rhaegar on the throne as fast as they could, because they didn't want to wait anymore. Ares was getting too crazy. So all of this was supposed to go down at the tourney of Harrenhal, and that was the day that Rhaegar won and crowned Lyanna Stark the Queen of Love and Beauty. And he gave her the crown of blue interroses that he gave to her in place of his own wife, Ailey Martell. So that question was answered. It was Rhaegar that sent the Kingsguard there. So obviously, it's most likely, Lyanna Stark is most likely in the tower. There's probably no way it's anybody but Lyanna. Where's my sister? And that started the battle. So that was another question that I had, was like, what started this battle exactly? And I think this is the bigger part. They made Arthur Dayne look like the most gallant knight of all time. He's called the Sword of the Morning, And Bloodraven even reminds us of that. That's the Sword of the Morning. And Bran reminds us that he was the best swordsman in the world. Nobody's ever been better. So, it seemed like, these beautiful knights, and they're guarding a woman, and they're guarding him for Rhaegar. I mean, of all the people in all of this story, it's Rhaegar. So, Rhaegar he's the most beautiful character we have. He's a Renaissance man. He was beloved by the people. The small folk loved him. He played songs for them. He was sad. He knew he had to be a warrior. He was fulfilling a prophecy. His reign was supposed to be the most beautiful time of their lives. It was supposed to be the most beautiful time they were going to enter. All of these people were looking so forward to Rhaegar being on the throne. And then this happens with Lyanna and with Robert. And Robert Baratheon kills him on the Trident. And, I mean, talk about all the smiles dying. I think that it was over. The dream was over. Rhaegar died. Rhaegar was dead, and Arthur Dayne was his best friend, and Jaime was left at King's Landing, and I think that there's a little bit of some parallel here, because in the books, when Jaime was left by Rhaegar at King's Landing with Ares, Rhaegar touched him on the shoulder, which is a very brotherly thing to do. And he said something to the effect of, it'll be the greatest kingdom you've ever seen. We'll do great things. That's what he said. We'll do great things together. And he left and, of course, died. So I almost wonder if Jaime was given an order, or if Jaime was carrying out an order. I just don't think that Jaime did something wrong. I really don't. And I just think that it always bothered me that Ned Stark rode in and saw Jaime on the Iron Throne and interpreted it like that he wanted to overthrow the kingdom and take the throne for himself. That Jaime's just a joker. He was sitting on the throne just to sit on the throne. That's Jaime. So that always kind of bothered me. And the line about, and now it begins, really bothered me too, or really made me wonder what it meant. And obviously, to me, what it means is that Arthur Dayne was saying, look at what you've done. Look at what you and Robert have done. And you're going to follow this king? This is going to be the kingdom? Good luck in the wars to come. And the dream has died. The dream is over. And Rhaegar's dead. And that's it. So my life is over too. And look, I'm surrounded by 7 of you, 6 of you, but 7 of you. So I'll, you know, now it begins, and now it ends. So I think Ned was saying, and now the Targaryen reign ends. Now your reality ends. But I think that Ned realized pretty quickly, if he didn't already, that he was on the wrong side, and that he had done something that might not have been right. And it might have been that way the whole time. We might be being told that, Ned Stark wasn't exactly who we thought he was, and that what he and Robert did really, really, really plunged the kingdom into a place that it didn't want to go, and that it didn't have to go, and that Rhaegar would have been an amazing king. So then we get Varys' gorgeous speech. And I mean, this was so cool because it showed the power of Varys and who he is. And it also showed, I think, a little bit of a dialogue between the writers and the watchers, the book readers, the show watchers, everyone together, saying, look, it's from your perspective, his perspective, my perspective, but look at it from mine, because I'm telling you the story. I'm telling it to you still. I promise you I am. It was really sort of underlying to me, but it really did feel like that. We've never seen Varys be that forceful before, and I loved it. I thought it was wonderful. And you also heard rats in the background of that. So it made me wonder, because Qyburn has his little birds, if maybe he's gone back to the rats. Because Illyrio Mopatis obviously has sent a ship for this woman, Vala, who he caught in helping the Sons of the Harpy, being a whore. And her son, which I loved. What's his name again? Dong. So it was kind of like, what's your name? All of you who are telling us how to do this and telling us what to say and how we should handle R plus L equals J or whatever it is. And here's a clue in almost every way we can possibly say it. And here's a way that we're going to find to speak, And they did. And I liked what they said. So, to me, this is also just, it's when she says, you've taken everything, you've changed everything. And to me, that's kind of, America invading Iraq. It's things like that. There's a lot of political commentary here, and there's a lot of religious commentary. And the Tyrion scene was really cute because it showed the uncomfortability of people from different cultures and different purposes. King's Landing, Qyburn has little birds. I think Qyburn's I think Qyburn is not who we think he is, but I'm really not sure about Qyburn. It makes me feel weird that the little birds are mute in the books and they wouldn't be able to speak. So I have a feeling they're not going to tell on Varys, or that they might actually tell a lie and screw the Lannisters because they're smart. So, the other thing is the mountain smashing that guy. I think that's great because it's Cersei saying, I choose violence, It's like, I'm going to kill everyone. Or that says a word about me, that says a word about everything. It's what we love about Cersei, It's what's kind of delicious about her. I've got to make this a little shorter, so I'll just say this is what really interested me too, is that during the Tower of Joy, Howland Reed stabbed Arthur Dayne in the back. And Bran really noticed it, and that was the whole, my father won this battle, but Arthur Dayne is so much better, and Bloodraven going, did he really win this battle? And it turns out that Howland Reed stabbed Arthur Dane in the back, and Ned took Don and beheaded him, probably to put him out of his misery, but he still beheaded Arthur Dane the Sword of the Morning with Don. So, later on Ned was beheaded with ice by Ellen Payne, and we thought that was the most awful moment. It was the most awful moment in Game of Thrones, and it's still, until probably this, was the worst moment, one of them, for me anyway. And, it just turned it around a little bit to, was this Ned's karma? And, is this maybe why they decided not to put Lady Stoneheart in? Or is she maybe? I don't know. It was an interesting thing that they did that. And it is a parallel. It has to be a parallel with Jaime stabbing the Mad King in the back. It has to be. It's just too similar. So it's, the way that it was looked on as a treacherous thing to do. Jaime's been called the Kingslayer for so long, and that he's just puts up with it now. So it's his name. So, you know, it wasn't a very honorable thing to do, the whole thing. And you knew that it had to be something where there were two people taking down Arthur Dane, because nobody beats Arthur Dane with Dawn. George R. R. Martin says that all the time. If he's got Dawn, he's gonna win. So anyway, I think the Starks might be the ones who brought the magic and the beauty and the dragons and the down. I don't know. Or is that not true? I don't know. But we'll see. I mean, it's interesting because also the scene with Arya really was interesting, where the waif was asking her who she was, who Arya Stark was. And everywhere she hit her in the mouth when she said, "My name is Arya," or she said Arya Stark, she hit her in the mouth. Then she said, "Who are your brothers?" She said, "I have 4. She hit her. She dropped the stick. The waif gave it back, and she said, "I have 3. Then she said, "Robb." She hit her in the arm. That's, I think, where Robb got hit with the arrow that took him to the Westerlings to be healed, where he met Jane and fell in love and married her, who was Talisa in the show, and that ultimately got him killed. Then she says Bran, and the waif hits her on the lower back. Then she says Rickon, and she takes her legs out from under her. Arya falls onto her back. Then Arya later shows up I'll just finish real quick. She gives her kill list as Jaqen H'ghar walks in. And it's a little bit telling, it seems, and also in that clip, there were more god faces. I mean, there was that one god face that sits in the Hall of Faces. It was just right above Jaqen almost the whole time. And there was the profile of it. You could see it in every frame. Like, the gods are always watching. The many-faced God is always watching. The many faces of God are always watching. You are God, and all these people are God, and they're all watching. So, there was so much religious imagery. It was just like, here's all your gods, and none of them are real, and maybe R'hllor is some kind of magic, but I don't know about a god. But bringing back to life it's magic, It's not a god. really, I think that's all I'm going to talk about. I just really quickly, I'm just going to say poor Tommen. I think that this is going to be another history repeats itself with Baelor the Blessed, who built the, who put his sister wives in the sept and locked them up, or not, or locked them up, and because he was attracted to them, and so Tommen's like a kid who, the minute he gets love from anywhere, because of how he was raised, and being also raised in the shadow of Joffrey and by Cersei, and without a father, without anyone really, except some cats, and his sister, who got sent away. He has no idea who he is. He's so lost. So he sits down by the High Sparrow, who starts to give him some attention and some love, just like Marjorie. He fell in love with her immediately because she gave him validation and some sense of that he means something. So I can see this repeating itself with Tommen and with what happened with Baelor the Blessed. I can see him leaving Marjorie in there and visiting her and saying it's just not right. I can't. So we'll see if he gets really religious and if Marjorie gets really religious. And I thought it was interesting that the Umbers came to Ramsay at Winterfell with, he's sitting there with Lord Karstark, and Lord Umber walks in and is so rude to him and won't kneel and keeps calling him a fucker and keeps calling Roose a cunt and won't, he's an ass to him. And then he all of a sudden offers Rickon and Osha and drops Shaggy Dog's head. And I thought about this and thought about this and thought about this. And the thing that I think it might be, because they're combining so much that doesn't even really have to do with the other anymore. They're just getting all the storylines out there somehow. And so there was a storyline with Davos where Wyman Manderley, because the North remembers, and he is trying to pretend that he's not on the side of the Starks. His daughter, Violet Manderley, is screaming, "What do you mean? We love the Starks!" And they're pulling her out of the room, and Manderley says, "Throw Davos in the cells. I'm not even going to eat until I see his head." I think this might be one of those moments, though. I think this might be that, is them saying, here's Rick and here's Shaggy Dog's head, when it's hopefully really not Shaggy Dog's head. I really, really hope it's not. The way Rickon looked at it, just, I don't know. It wasn't right. But Osha will give her life for Rickon. And I don't think that the Umbers are going to stay loyal to Ramsay. I just don't see it. This really, really, if they keep doing it like this, I will be so happy, because this is just as fun as every other thing we've ever seen. And here's the other part about Arthur Dayne that got me, and then I'll end this, is he said, "I wish you good fortune in the wars to come." And that was Mance Rayder's line that he said to Stannis. And when Arthur Dayne said that, it was not only the name of the first episode of the first season of the show, but it really was saying, good luck with what you've done. Good luck with what you and the usurper Robert Baratheon have done. Good luck with life without Rhaegar and me, and, all the magic that you've been living with, and good luck. So, maybe the Starks aren't what we think they are. I don't know. Maybe they are, and this is the hero's journey. John atoning for the sins of the father. That's part of the hero's journey. So that could be what's going on here. I really fucked myself up with this episode. Don't expect any more from this show that you think you're supposed to get. That I'm talking to myself here, because it's not going to happen the way I think it's going to happen, or it should happen, and they are doing a great job. So I'll end it there. Oh my gosh, it's long. Sorry. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, really. And I hope you didn't go through what I went through with it. Please like and subscribe, and I really appreciate everybody so much. Take care.